right, well, it is close to 2. We'll give them another minute. All right, well, it is right at 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started to respect for everybody's time. Not sure how long we're scheduled to be here. We should take about an hour to do a walkthrough. So my name is Brad Greenfield. I work in ITS. I'm the developer of Super 2, and look forward to walking you through the new event module. We have changed quite a bit. So hopefully we can walk through it and answer any questions that you may have, and explain some of the things that we went through when we transitioned to the new format, and when we tried to bring all of the events from the old training registration model to the new event module. Did the best we could. There's a couple of gotchas there that I'll apologize for, but once we get through this first initial transition, then hopefully it'll go a lot smoother after that. So before I get going, does anybody have any questions to start us off? All right, hearing none, then I will jump right into our demo here. I believe we are recording. So let me share my screen out. And then we move this around here so I can still see. So I'll ask, if you do have questions, you can just turn your mic on and ask while I'm going. You can use the chat if you want to. However, the way I've got it set up, I may not see that. So I may ask Dr. Toman if you can watch the chat. If there's any questions in there that I miss, just call those out for me, if you will. So I'm going to be using our production version here to walk through this, because we have changed quite a bit from our testing to production. So it just seems relevant at this point to use the production model. I'm going to go through and create an event for ITS, be an in-service event, which I think is what most of the folks on this call will be doing. So hopefully I can emulate most of what you're going to go through. So to start off, I'm going to go through just the general searching for events. That seems to be the place that most people will kind of start off when they're looking for events. So we did change the name from training and registration to events. So the event search, under the events tab, we'll just click on search events. And then we have several filters up here at the top that we can select. We have a date range, and that date range defaults to showing a 3-month interval. So once I pick a start date, then I'll have to pick a date after that to be the to date, or the date range. You can go forwards and backwards however you want, select month, different things like that. So you can change that around. The default is that it just loads the 1 month starting from the date, whatever today is, when you go into the search module or search feature. It'll default to today and then go a month out. So the event type, we have county, in-service. The international, national, and we don't really use those much. Those are kind of holdovers. So we'll probably look to get rid of those in this drop down at some point. Units, we can select all the different units that we have. Base program, knowledge area, and topic, and really the state action agenda. All these are really just filters. So when folks are coming to look for, search for events, these are ways to just kind of fine tune what the search is that they're doing. And of course, new to us here, we've added the ability to search by instructor. And what this does, it doesn't just pull a list of all the folks in UTIA. It actually looks at the instructors for the date range that we've selected and pulls those into a list. So that should be a benefit for folks that are looking for their favorite instructor to attend a training for. If they know the instructor, not really sure what the date was or the title was, they can search that way. Keywords is something that we also added. These are created by our state program leaders. These are the same keywords that our agents are using when they're doing their delivery reporting throughout the year. So we can select those two. And again, all this really does is just add some ability to filter, really fine tune that search. So down here in the search body, after we get the results, it's listed from, it's ascending. So it'll go from now until that, whatever that date range we selected. We can tab through pages. We can show a different number of results if we want to. Here, the default is going to be 10. If we do a search for a date range, and then we go and we view that event, when we come back, that date range, we set a cookie on that lasts about 15 to 20 minutes before it expires. So that way folks that are in here looking for events going back and forth don't have to continue to go back and reset that date range. If you felt the need to, you could export these listings to Excel. So if you're an instructor and you want to come in and get all your courses for the year, you could export those to Excel. If that's something that you deem valuable, you can also adjust what columns are being seen. So not really that much new when it comes to the actual table aspect. So I'll go ahead and jump into the view and register. And what we did in Old Super, if you'll remember, there was a way to view the event and then register. I think you could actually do it on the same page, but instead of having two different links, we just put one button here that will kind of do all of the things for us. So if I wanted to register for this administrative retreat, then I would click on view and register. And these are going to be pretty similar when it comes to all of the events. We just have the different tiles here that have some of the information for those events. And then down here we have the sessions, and I'll get into sessions and events and how that is different from sub-events and things of the past. At the bottom of the page, we can see just a real quick view, nothing really detailed of people that are registered for this specific event. So we can tell if they're internal, external. So if we were offering a course that had a mix, we would be able to filter through that or sort through that to get our internal, external clientele. Couple of options here. So I can register myself, obviously, which there's not really much here. The sessions are automatically, and again, I'll get into explaining what sessions are here in just a little bit. Sessions are automatically checked for us. If there was a session here that was full, we would have a note here telling us that it is full. If any questions were added to the event, this is where we would answer those questions for ourselves. And then obviously the special needs is going to be on there for every event. We can also register coworkers. So if I am the facilitator of an event, which most of you folks are going to be, you can pick different units and then individuals within that. So you kind of have the ability to add folks from outside of your own unit. This is an example. I can only add people to this event from my own unit. So that kind of locks us down there. But as a facilitator, again, you can add people from across the Institute to your event if you needed to do that. Registering clients, I'm not sure how many folks on here would actually be doing that, but from an agent standpoint, just so you're aware of this, we have a couple of different ways that we're allowing agents to register their clients. That's the first option that I'll go through is this select from enrollee list. So every county has a massive enrollee list that has several thousand people in it. If they select that, then they can search for a person. I don't have a lot here. Most of the items that I have in here is test data, as you can see. But for those counties that had quite a few, they could start searching in here for that specific person and register them one at a time. Registering a client one at a time is be similar to registering a coworker one at a time. You can select a person, answer the questions, sign them up for the sessions, and do all of that here. One option that we added this year for agents is to be able to import client lists. So the benefit in that is if they have a club or a activity group or an interest group or something like that, they can select a large number of people and register them all for an event at one time. The caveat there is if there are any questions that have to be answered for the event, like, an example would be t-shirt size, or, maybe it's having to select a specific meal choice or something like that. If they had questions, then they would have to go back in and manage, as this kind of warning tells them session registration and answering event questions is not available in group registration. So once they registered that group, then they would have to go in and manage that group to answer any questions. and also to get them registered for sessions. So we've covered that with agents. Again, I don't know how many folks in this call or on this call would be actually registering from groups that they've created in their enrollment list, but I just wanted you to be familiar with the fact that this is an option. So that's a pretty quick turnaround there on searching and then registering self, coworkers, and clients. Any questions before I move on to the hub of the event module and then creating events?
Brad, we just have one question in chat. Is did you register your pup?
Yeah, my pup is no longer with me, but she is registered for just about every event possible and has been the subject to a lot of delivery entries and things like that. So her legacy does live on in Super 2.
So another question in chat we have is, even with date range, my in-service training doesn't show up if I search for my name as the instructor.
Okay. So who are we working with there?
Jennifer.
Tsuruda, Tsuruda.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that may be something I've got to look at offline. This was something that new that we had. Do you have events that are happening from now forward, or are you looking?
Yeah, and I'm trying to get people to register, and so they haven't been able to find it, and so that's been the problem. So I'm trying to find the right search options for them, or just giving them a link.
If you can, and let me find my search here. If you can email me that the event title, I can look into that more. I can't find my search. It's way over here. It's not.
No worries.
Her name's showing up as an instructor there.
Yeah, let me just click on this and see. See, there's nothing going. So I may need to look into it a little bit further.
Yeah, if I add my unit in, then it'll show up, but it won't do it just with my instructor name.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that I can definitely look into. There's my chat feature. All right, I'm gonna throw my email address in there. If you could email me that, and that'll give me something to go on. Sound good?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Any other questions here on searching and registering? All right. I got a question here. I just noticed, can we add Excel? I assume you mean, can we import Excel lists? No, we cannot. We cannot do that. All right, I will move on now. What I'll call the kind of the events hub, the My Events. So this is where that's pretty self-explanatory. All of my events. So I can look at events that I've registered for, events that I've completed, facilitated events, events that are awaiting approval, instructed events. And then another thing that we added for our agents, and it'd probably be appropriate here too, is my client events. And so anytime you have an event where you have a client registered, well, I take that back. I don't know how many folks on this call are registering external clients, but for agents that are registering external clients, once they register one person for an event, they can come to this list and see, I doubt I have anything in here yet. They can come to this list and they would see all of those events. So, you know, the idea there is that when agents are in the mode of registering folks for specific events, they're going to do that often within a window of time. So we added this so that they would have a quick access instead of having to go back through email and try to figure out, you know, what event that was, or whatever. On the My Facilitated Events. So again, I don't have much in here. This would be a list of, in descending order, I believe, of all the events that we are facilitating with the status. And then we have the option to duplicate an entire event. I know there's been some folks that have asked for the option to duplicate sessions.
Awesome.
We don't have that right now, but we do have the to duplicate an entire event. Over here on the right-hand side, we have 4 different icons, 2 of which look the same. We could probably stand to maybe change this up a little bit, but I'll go through each one of these. So the first one is an edit. Now, I'll create an event and then come back and go through that whole process so it makes a little more sense. So we can edit that event under this little person with the plus icon. That's where we can register people. So that will take us back to that registration screen. And then, since I'm the facilitator of this event, I would be able to register people from outside of my my department. The third option, and we split up, so there's two different rosters, if you will. There's a full roster. So if you can imagine, if I had an event where I asked 4 or 5 different questions, and then by the time we got all of the relevant information in there, we would have the person's name, email, phone number, fax, address, all those questions. That list or that table is going to get pretty big and really kind of difficult to show on one screen. I'll just dive in here to show you what I'm talking about. So yeah, you can see here that this table is, it's pretty disgusting. So this is relevant though. So we needed to have this in here. We just kind of put it standalone. So that's the only reason that it's different. Again, you can export this to Excel. You can show and hide columns. And even with all of the columns that we have here, we have several of these hidden. And there's a program that agents use called Showware. They use quite often. And so we've added some of these columns in here so that they can easily download this Excel sheet and then upload it into that program called Showware, which I think is mostly for livestock shows, county fairs, things of that nature. So that's why some of this, team name, coach name, things like that are present there. But you can show and hide these however you may need to fulfill whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish there. So I'll go back to my facilitated events, and then I'll click on, so that was the last one. And if you hover over that, it says view full event roster. If I hover over this second to the last one, then it's manage event participants. And this is really kind of where the meat and potatoes, if you will, of managing the event takes place. So again, at the top, we just have some general information about the event. And then we have our event roster, which these are all of the folks that are registered for the event. And as I'll get into creating the event and talking about sessions, then you'll understand what these sessions are. But if there was a cost associated with the event, let's say there's a cost for the overall event and then a separate cost for each session. However that person is registered, that cost will aggregate here. So if there were fees that need to be collected, you wouldn't have to go back and do the math, because if you're like me, I would fail miserably at it. This does it for the person managing the event, and they'll be able to see how much is owed and mark quickly whether they've been paid or not. We also have the option to mark all paid. So you can do it one by one or mark them all paid. We can also edit the registration. So this would be a situation, as I mentioned before, if we did a group registration and we needed to go in and answer questions for that individual, then we could do that here. We can also remove this person from the event altogether. And what that'll do is it'll take them out of the event roster. It'll also take them out of the any sessions that maybe they're registered for. And if I scroll down here, then I can see the sessions. This one was day 1. We had an OIT panel discussion for our ITS retreat. We can add folks. So if we had registered people and we didn't add them in a session on registration for whatever reason, then we would have those options to register those here. Everyone that I've added in here has been added to the appropriate session. So I don't have anybody in this list. This is where we'll mark everyone attended. So we can mark them all attended with one button, or we can go through and check them individually. Again, same kind of table format here. We can extend this to be to show more than 10 rows, or can't go less than 10, but we could extend that. So I do have one person that's not registered for the day 2 session. So just to give you an idea, actually I have several people. Okay, so these folks are not registered for session 2 or the session titled day 2. But they are registered for the main event up there. So I could add them here if I wanted to. Again, for each session, we just have the mark all attended, and then we can mark them individually and so on and so forth. And this will probably kind of come full circle when we go through actually creating an event. But before I move on to that, any questions on this event management screen? All right, while I'm here, I will show this. Again, I don't know how many folks on this call would actually be using this, but just so you are in the know. Our agents, one of the things that our super team has really tried to put together is our 3-prong or triangle approach to super, being involving enrollment, training, enrollment, event module, and delivery. So if an agent was to create an event, once they've marked them all attended, or anybody in this call that does that records items in delivery, once you've marked them all attended, then you can go to this export to delivery option, select the program. Again, for me, all I have is organizational support. The base program, we have to select one base program, one knowledge area, and one topic, just for the way that delivery works. So I'll select just organizational support across the board. And this is going to pull from whatever was entered when the event was created. Delivery doesn't take multiple base programs, multiple knowledge areas, or multiple topics. So we have to be concise on what we pick here. And then I would put my hours in. And if I had any volunteer hours, I could add that. And then I would click on export to delivery. And then my reporting for this event is done. And what it'll do is, and I'll just hop over here to delivery to show you. So we add the, in parentheses, the event word there, just so the agents or whoever's using this know that that was imported from events. I can see that my employee hours were 10. I just entered that. The contacts pulls in all the contacts from all of the sessions. Let me go in here and just edit this so you can kind of see the full thing. So once it loads, then it loads all of my group meetings. I had 52 participants, and it even adds all of my demographics based on the people that I had registered. So really quick and easy for folks to take an event and then transfer it or export it to delivery and capture that. So hopefully folks will find that to be very beneficial, that they're utilizing that. All right, so I'll go into creating an event. So you've heard me talk a lot about sessions and events. And so the way that we built the event module was the actual event is a container that holds sessions. So a great way to think about this, we have a lot of master programs, Master Beef, Master Goat, Master Gardener, several programs that have, a certain number of classes that are required for our clients to take. Another example would be, I know Justin Reinhardt does beef cattle hot topics, one a month for the calendar year. So that would be 12. So if you think about that, event would be beef cattle hot topics. And then the sessions would be potentially named January, January beef cattle hot topics, February beef cattle hot topics, things like that. So in the past, you could have an event without a sub event, and that would be fine. In the new event module, every event has to have a session. So I'll start off. I see a question here. If you're listed as a co-facilitator of this export, so we don't have co-facilitators in on this release. That is something that is on our list to add. But eventually, yes, co-facilitators would be able to do the export to delivery. Instructors can also go in and do the export to delivery. So if you're listed as an instructor on a specific session, then you could go into that manage participant roster or the manage participant screen, find the session that you were the instructor of, and export that session to your delivery if you're the instructor. So I will just title this specialist walkthrough. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm going to delete this anyway. So the training type, I'm going to select in-service. Delivery method, we did slim down our delivery methods. And like I said, we need to update that search to reflect this, but we got rid of the web-based synchronous, web-based asynchronous, just web-based, video conference, face-to-face, 4-H camp. Those are our options now for delivery methods. So I'll select web-based. And I specifically won't have a regional program leader for this one, so I will select not applicable. We have to select one of those. So not applicable is an appropriate option if that fits what you're doing. My approval pathway, these are the same that they were in Classic Super. I'm just going to select my department. So we left the participant fee here for the overall event. The thought here is that an event may carry a fee, and then there may be a session in that event that, you know, maybe there's something special going on and it requires another dollar amount to be involved in that session. So you could have a participant fee for the overall event, or you could have just a fee for each session. It's really however you want it. You know, I know that some folks have asked, well, what if we have 3 sessions and they're each $10? You could put $30 here and then $0 on the sessions if the intention is that everybody, or that each participant attends all 3 sessions. However you want to do it, however it makes sense to you. For me, I'm just going to put 0 in there. Registration deadline, I'll put this out in the future. And then description is required. I'm just going to write test in there. And funding is not required. We've really streamlined these funding sources. We used to have a lot of them in Super Classic. Everything now just kind of defaults to the Smith lever, but we left a text box here for folks to be able to record anything. An example being if a county agent's delivering a program that was sponsored by a local retailer or local civic organization or something like that, they could record that here just for their own usage in this event. Next section, again, just our filters. We can select as many or as few base program, knowledge area, topic as we would like. Trying to get a little more concise on what we do. You know, we've added some of our, you know, ag research, the Herbert College, the College of Veterinary Medicine, some things that weren't really present in Super Classic on creating training or events there. But we've added those here. So in the past, when I was an area IT specialist, when I would do a program or event, I would select all of the major base programs with the assumption that what I was offering was for everybody. Now we've streamlined that. So for most of what I would do personally, I would select organizational support because that's what I'm doing. So, you know, again, you can select as many of these as you would like, but we are trying to get a little more concise on how we go through selecting these base program, knowledge area, and topics. But by all means, select what's appropriate for whatever it is that you're doing. As you'll want to do this from left to right, because as I pick base program, then the research knowledge area gets filtered out, and then the topic gets filtered out after that. If I were to come in and change the topic, well, it doesn't really fit here. But if I was to come in and if I had more research knowledge area options here and I selected another one, it would blank out the topic selection and I have to go back in and select those. So just be aware of that. Keywords are not required. The state action agenda is not required. But again, you can select as many or as few of those or leave them blank if you want to. All right, so we'll enter our first session. The first kind of, I guess, gotcha, if you will, here. If I'm working on a session, or let's just say I add, notice the trash can here besides session 1. Can't really delete that because I have to have at least one session here. So I'm not going to delete that. But if I add a second session, that trash can leaves session 1 and moves to session 2. Without getting too technical, each one of these sessions is based on a 0 index, and it has to be in a contiguous order. So if we were to get rid of 0, which would be session 1, then we would start at 1, which would actually be session 2, and it would throw the way that we save this to the database off. So once we add a session, now I can come in here and I can still edit this session 1 and add all of the content to it. I just can't delete this session 1 without first getting rid of session 2. So you see the trash can shows back up. So that's something just to be aware of. I would say for the most part, when folks show up here, they know what sessions they're going to add, and that's not going to be much of an issue. But if you wonder where the trash can went as we add more sessions, then that's what the problem is. So I'll just title this test session 1. Our maximum enrollment, it'll aggregate. So in the past, you had to check a box if you're going to allow a waiting list. It all just defaults to a waiting list. So if I put 10 maximum enrollment here, and I get 10 people registered, and then the 11th person comes in and registers, they'll get a note and it'll show that they're on the waiting list. If I remove one of the 10 that have already registered, that person gets moved into that 10th spot. So there's nothing that we have to do. And as long as that person has an email address, which all internal people are going to have an email address, they will get an email letting them know that they've been moved. The facilitator will also get an email letting them know that so-and-so has been moved from a waiting list to the active roster, so that, hopefully we're all clear, or, there's communication going on there to let folks know that they've been moved to the active list. So participant fee, again, I'm just going to put 0 here. Contact hours, 10's a lot. I'll put in 4. So when I pick my start date, I can't remember what registration deadline I picked. It didn't really matter. We'll do it on November 16th, and we will start at 8:00 a.m. And then, so on my end date, you'll notice now I can't go back before the 16th. So I'll select the 16th. And even though I've selected the 16th, I have to start. I selected the start to be the 16th at 8:00 a.m. I can't go below 8:00 a.m. You notice when I went past or down below 8:00, it changed. It's not even going to let me do it now. So yeah, it locks you down so that the start date and time is before the end date and time. So just kind of a help there to make sure we don't get off. So yeah, I'll do noon. No, I've got to select the AM. Sorry. So I'll have this end at noon. All right, so there's our dates. Again, a description is required. I'll just type in test here. Location is required, and I will type in test there just to satisfy that requirement. We can add internal instructors if we want, so we can select whatever department we want to. Dr. Toman is an instructor on every event I've ever created in testing with Super 2, so I'll just add you here, Dr. Toman. And then we can add external folks if we want to here. Since we don't have a way to link them to anything, then we would just type in a name. You could add a title to that if you want to, whatever makes sense to you as you're creating this. So that's my session 1. I'll add a session 2. And I'll set this at 10. Actually, I'll set this at 2. I'll do 0 again. We'll go 4 more contact hours. I'll start this on the 17th. And I'll go from noon to 5. All right, satisfy this constraint there. Type something in location. I'm not going to add any instructors here. Just going to leave that blank. John Doe there. If we wanted to add questions, the questions aren't required. So it starts off when you expand this accordion as just being blank. But if I wanted to add a question, then I could add whatever it is I want there. Question type, we have 3 options. It's either a free text, which means it's going to show up as just a blank input box. So whatever the question is, somebody would free type that. Multiple options, so that means they can select multiple of whatever the options may be, or just a single option. So I'll do single option, and Monday. If I try to add a same option, so if I try to add Monday again here, when I click off of that, it's going to tell me that name already exists. So I've got to type something else. Again, the trash can thing, you'll notice that it moved off of that first option. I can delete the second option. Can't really delete the first option. I'd have to actually select as a free choice. We have to have at least one option if we're doing a single or multiple option. But once I start adding options, you'll see that trash can gets removed from the earliest one added. And that's the same kind of 0 index thing. So I've got to add something here. All right, I'll just add another option. All right. Any questions on any of this before I click on create? We have set up some checks here. So if there's something that's not filled out, hopefully it'll pop up with a message that tells you what it is, that something's missing. So it should help in creating that. All right, hearing no or seeing no questions, I'll just go ahead and create this event. And we do this pop-up, are you sure you want to create it? And we'll go ahead and create it. So when I create the event, it then takes me, when it reloads, it takes me to the edit event screen. And the reason behind that is the submit button is here. So some of our events, mostly at the county level and things like that, if they're doing a county event, it really doesn't require a workflow. For the event I just created, I selected the workflow of information technology. So it's got to go to our CIO, Angela Gibson, for her to review and approve. And I'll go through that when I submit it and show you kind of what that looks like. So at the top, we can change some of these things. We could, update whatever we want to do. We could add more items here. And then click update event. So that saving all of this at the top is all handled through here. When we get down to our sessions, then we can either add an extra session here, or we can edit the individual sessions that we created before. So I'll go in, click on edit this. So at this point, I have no one registered, the event's not approved. If once I get the first person registered, I can add seats under the max enrollment, but I can't take them away. The reason behind that is if we add seats, we're creating more room. If we take them away, then we're potentially pushing people out that were already registered. So we can't do that. Also, if I have, you'll see this delete session. If I only have one session, I can't delete it. So that button will not appear. You'll see a note here that says each event has to have at least one session. But we can edit these however we want. Then I would click on update session. I'm going to go back to the main event. And it's the same thing with questions. We can add more questions here, or we can edit the questions that we've already added. Here. I see a question here. 2020 was your example. I need to postpone in-service order to convert them to virtual trainings. To do this, Dr. Tone would have to go back in. Okay, Dr. Tone would have to go back in and make those changes in Super because folks had already registered for the original training. Does Super 2 allow you to make changes to the registration after it has already been posted and after participants have already registered? Yes. So what we've done in Super 2, once this is submitted, the only time you cannot edit this event is when it's in the workflow. So once I click submit, I can't come in and save any of my edits. After it's been approved, no matter when, I can come in and change the registration deadline. I can come in and change the session type. I can really do anything I want. We've left it wide open for facilitators to come in and change anything they need to or want to after the event has been approved. We don't really, run that by several people. It seems a little odd, but I don't think that any of us are trying to sneak one by people that are approving these events and then come in and change a whole lot of stuff. So we're trying to eliminate the amount of work that gets done actually doing queries in the database. And our answer to that is just to leave this wide open and let folks come in here and adjust it as they need to, whenever they may need to. Lori, if that doesn't answer your question, let me know. So from Tennessee Master Beef, for the monthly webinar you mentioned, is it better to add each as an individual event or one event with multiple sessions? I don't catch what you said about that. Okay, so each event has to have at least one session. So in that example, I think that it would be, in my opinion, you're the facilitator, so however it's going to work for you, but in my opinion, I would create one event and then have 12 sessions throughout the year for folks to register for. Dr. Merker asked, does it show us where in the approval workflow it presently is? I can't remember if it shows you exactly or if it just says pending approval. But what we have also created was if it gets, sometimes our workflow gets lost, somebody's on vacation, something like that. So we have a way to see where it's at and push it on through if that's something that we need to do. So we can help with managing that. We tried to make it as easy as possible for folks to get those emails and to manage that. But as in the past, we can help with that. Hopefully, we've done enough due diligence to eliminate even more queries there in the database, which we've created some interfaces for us to be able to manage that. Dr. Merker, if that answers your question, if not, follow up for me. Lori says that Dr. Toman, she's going to leave you alone now. So hopefully by opening that up, it does allow for people to manage, and it makes sense. We set registration deadlines, things happen, folks need to register. So we may need to bump that up a little bit. So not going to change anything here, not seeing or hearing any more questions. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the submit button. And then through the magic of computers. So yeah, we can see here submitted to approval pathway. If it was submitted to the regional program leader, then that's where it would go. I know the approval pathway that I picked was information technology. So I know that it's setting in Angela Gibson's inbox or on her dashboard. And I'm going to go ahead and just switch over to her so you guys can see what this looks like. So for all of you that may be approving, if you go to the events and my events, awaiting approval events, you'll see here, this is the event that I just created. So when Angela takes a look at this, she'll see all of the details. She'll see the sessions, the questions that I'm asking. If she had feedback, she could click on request changes, and then it defaults just by adding the event title in there. You can take that out if you want to, or you could just put some space and, you should add more sessions. And so if I click send, I would get an email from Angela giving me this feedback. And then once I made those changes, I would then go back through the approval process. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and click on approve. And then once this email comes up, I'll try to show what that looks like. So once that event has been approved, let me stop impersonating here. Then if I go into my events and my facilitated events, then we can see the event session or the event that I just created. So at this point, I should have come here before, but at this point, before I had submitted it, when it was still listed as new, then the green icon here to register people was not present. So if the status is new, or if it's in the workflow, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see that event or that ability to register people. So I'll go in and register myself. So you can see I have the question that I have to answer here. By default, session 1 and session 2 are selected.
Trying to stay away.
I can,
they did this Eastern time and it didn't say, so I was 37 minutes late. I thought I was 20 minutes early.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess we should have specified time zone. So once I have the session selected, I can uncheck a session that I don't want to attend, or however. Again, it's left default because the thought process here is that most people are going to be registering for each session. So when I click self-register, then I'll get this note, successfully registered for the title. If the session event was full, participant will be added in the session's waiting list. We have emails that go out that will, they have an ICS file attached to them. It's a .ics. And what that will allow you to do is add those events then to your calendar. So hopefully folks will find that beneficial to be able to click on that. It comes through as an attachment, and you'll be able to add those to your calendar. I can also see here, since I just registered for this, I can add it to my calendar from here. So I don't have the Outlook desktop client on this computer. but if I click this, it would open up Outlook and allow me to add that to my calendar. So hopefully folks will find that to be beneficial. I'm going to register a couple of coworkers here just to try to send it to people that I know. Dr. Toman, you may get an email. And I wanted to do this so I could meet that. If you remember, I only added 2 slots for session 2 here. So I'll register coworker. All right. So now if I go in to register another coworker, then you see this note here, session is full, will be added to the waiting list. So as the sessions fill up, we do display that note so you'll know when you're registering somebody, or if I were to come in here and try to register myself at this point, then I would see that session 2 is full and I can't add, or I can't go into the waiting list, or I'll be added to the waiting list. So we try to make that clear, and the email that goes through actually should display or tell them that as well. All right, so now I've added some people to it. I'm going to go back to my facilitated events and just take a look at this manage event roster, event participants. So we have, if I would have registered that third person, then we would see they were successfully registered for session 2 or session 1. And then the session 2 testing would have the note that says waiting list out there beside it. So you'd be able to see that fully here. We can see all of the information for the sessions down here. If I go to, we've looked at this, it's all the same. It's just new now. I do want to show you one thing in the full roster. I don't know if this is beneficial or not, but we did add, if you ask questions that are multiple choice, then for each one of those, we do throw the graph up here so folks can take a look at how the breakdown is, maybe help making some decisions and some of the things that are pertaining to the event. But yeah, as many questions as we ask, as long as they're multiple choice, and that would be displayed here for folks to review. All right, go back to my facilitated events. Again, we said we can go back in and we can edit anything at any time. We can change the registration deadline. If we have 5 people on the waiting list and we increase the seat count by 5, then all of a sudden those 5 people would get moved over automatically into the event. So try to make everything as automated as possible. If you find something different, then by all means let us know. But that was our goal in the process. So that's a pretty quick run through there. What questions do you have?
Hi, Brett. I have a question on the under my facilitated events where it says duplicate.
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually mean? Is that something that you can duplicate the session and then go in and change like the region if we're doing Eastern, Central, and Western?
That's right. So what I did was I just duplicated the session, and then it takes me right back to the edit event. So then I could come in and just edit my sessions and change this to, Eastern.
Okay, and I'm assuming that would have to be done before approval.
What's that?
Yeah, because it's a different regional program leader would be approving it.
Well, everything. So that would be done before before they submit.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. It took me a second to hear what you'd said. It was very clear. That caught me off guard for some reason. But yes, once you changed all of this approval pathway, then it would go through the appropriate channels.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, and I just want to show real quick. Let me stop sharing this, and then I'm going to pull up 2 emails. I'm going to show you the one first that came from the, let's see. Here we go. And let me share this screen. Okay, so this is the email that I got from Angela when I impersonated her and approved the training. Specialist event example has been approved. Individuals may now register. And then the email that I got after I registered looks like, no, I just have to do that. Hold on. Here it is. Too many screens. So here's the email that I got when I registered. You can see here's those two. I have 2 sessions in that event, so that's why I have 2 ICS files to save those 2 different times on my calendar. Successfully registered for the event titled Specialist Event Examples. Session event was full. Participant will be added to the session waiting list, has a session information, and then the contact phone, email address, and name of the facilitator of that event. So pretty detailed. This would be similar to going out, if we have external clientele that that have an email address, then they would get something like this. All of our internal folks obviously are going to have an email address, so they'll get something like this. So again, hopefully that'll help get folks. I know we all live and die by our calendars, so hopefully that's a way to get those items on the calendar pretty easily. So also, sorry, I should have finished this up here. We've added on the home screen of Super 2. If you go to home, then down here, any events that are registered and upcoming. Obviously still have a little bit of work to do. I don't know what I was intending with button to be there, probably a link to the event. So still got some fine tuning to do on this, but either way, it does show a list of those upcoming registered events for people. So what questions can I answer about this before I get into kind of a caveat to, or not a caveat, an overused word, to one of the issues is changing all of the old training registration to the new. All right, if there's no questions with that, let me think of one that I can. Dr. Tolman, do you have any examples of one where we'd have to add participants to the sessions? Is that
no, because I fixed the central ones.
Okay. Well,
hey, Brad.
Yes.
This is Justin. First of all, I accidentally signed on a wrong account here, so I'm Master Beef.
You're trying to stay hidden.
Yeah, definitely, always. One thing. Let's see if I can remember what I was. Just a odd little question on delivery method. Choosing between video conference and web-based. May just be me, but sometimes I think that's clear in my head, but then I convince myself that it's not. If it's is that like the difference between synchronous and asynchronous?
Yeah, it's like video conference would be like Zoom or a webinar type thing. Web-based would be more of kind of like a web page delivery, a Kate online learning that was somebody that did it on their own, like an online learning module.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Just making sure.
Yeah. So for lack of an example to show you, again, when we moved all of the old, at least for 2020, all of those training registration items into the new event module, obviously we didn't have sessions and we didn't have session rosters really then. So, and in the email that I sent out to folks, there is going to be some management that needs to be done. So if you had an event that's coming up, and I think, Justin, you probably have some for your beef cattle hot topics, where people didn't get added to the session rosters. So you may want to take a quick look at your, before, I know that some of the 2021 events just got added or in the process of getting added now. Before we get too many more people registered for those, you may want to take a look at the facilitation, the managed participants on that, and get those folks added to those sessions. basically what we did is we took each event, and if it had sub events, we just changed those to sessions. If it didn't have any sub events, then we added one session with the same name of the event. And so all the folks that were registered for that event are still registered for the event, but they're not registered for the sub event. So that's something that you may want to be aware of. Furthermore, something else I want to add here in the event, when you go into my events, facilitated events, and we're going to manage those rosters. So let's say, for example, down here in the participants, even if I had someone registered or signed up for this session that was on the waiting list, okay, so if it was Brad Greenfield waiting list, I can still mark them as attended. We fully, and that'll be something you'll have to watch when you click on the mark all attended. But we know how this works, and we know that sometimes folks, especially in a virtual world, folks are going to, get on a waiting list or something like that and show up anyway. I know that happens a ton out in our county. So we wanted a way for them to be able to at least mark them attended without having to go through a process of extending the seats, getting them in the active roster and all of that. So you will have the opportunity to mark people on a waiting list attended. So just be aware of that when using the mark all attended function. All right, any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay, well, not hearing any, then we'll go ahead and call this a day. Just know if you have any issues, feel free to please reach out to me. We're dedicated to making sure that everything's working the way it should, and try to make everybody as happy as we possibly can, right? It's what we all do. So if there's no questions, then we'll call it a day.